For decades, when most of us thought about silver, we pictured treasure. We pictured coins, jewelry, maybe some fancy silverware, a precious metal, sure, but one that seemed to sit quietly in the shadow of gold. But I'm here to tell you that something profound has changed. There is a fundamental structural shift happening right now, creating a massive, and I mean massive, hidden shortage. This isn't speculation. This is about the very materials that are building our future.
So this forces us to ask a completely new question. It's not about the day-to-day price on a chart anymore. In a world that is rapidly electrifying and a future driven by data and artificial intelligence, what is silver's true value? The answer, as you're about to see, is a lot more complex and, frankly, a lot more urgent than most people realize. Okay, let's just lay it all out on the table. You have to understand that silver is now living a double life. The old view, the one we all grew up with, is on the left. It's a precious metal, something you hold for wealth preservation. But the new reality, the one that's driving everything now, is on the right. Silver is a critical, absolutely irreplaceable industrial material. We're not talking about some distant future. Solar panels, electric vehicles, AI, 5G. This isn't a wish list. This is the global economy today. Welcome to the Bullion Signal Podcast, the channel where we look at the macro trends, precious metals, and the strategies you need to protect and grow your wealth in these chaotic times. Today, we're diving deep into the silver story, and we're going to break it down into 5 clear parts. First, we'll explore silver's 2 faces. Then, we'll look at the incredible wave of demand that simply cannot be stopped. After that, we'll get into the most critical part of this story, the great supply bottleneck. Then we'll see the consequences, how we're draining the world's stockpiles. And finally, we'll bring it all together and look at the perfect storm that's gathering right now. So, let's start with this first crucial point. We have to fundamentally reset how we think about this metal. It's not just a shiny object anymore. It's become an engine of technological progress. Just look at that number, 680 million ounces. That is the forecast for industrial silver demand in 2024 alone. That's not just a record, it's the 4th year in a row that this number has gone up. This isn't a blip, it's a powerful accelerating trend. Industry's appetite for silver is becoming voracious.
And if that last number didn't grab you, this chart should. This really paints the picture of the new reality. Of all the silver that is painstakingly mined out of the earth each year, an incredible 81% of it is immediately consumed by industry. Think about that. Before a single person buys a silver eagle coin, before a single jeweler makes a necklace, industry has already claimed more than 4/5 of the entire annual supply. Okay, so if industry is taking the lion's share, what exactly is driving this relentless demand? Well, it's not just one thing. It's a tidal wave of demand driven by what I call the big 3. And what's important to understand here is that this demand is locked in. It's being driven by global government policies and technological shifts that are almost impossible to reverse. Let's start with the first driver, solar energy, 195 million ounces. That's how much silver the solar industry is projected to consume this year. To put that into perspective for you, that is nearly 1/4 of the entire global mine supply just for solar panels. Every single panel needs silver paste to conduct electricity, and as the world pushes for green energy, this number is only going one way. Next up, driver number 2, electric vehicles. This number is fascinating. Your average EV uses up to 79% more silver than a standard internal combustion engine car. Why? Because of all the complex electronics, the wiring, the connections. Silver is the best affordable conductor on the planet, period. So as you see more EVs on the road, you're seeing a non-negotiable increase in silver demand. But there's a third driver, one that a lot of people are completely missing. It's the silent driver, artificial intelligence, and the explosion of data centers. Every single AI server, every 5G cell tower, all the switches and electronics that power our connected world, they all rely on silver. As we demand faster data and more powerful AI, this silent, hidden demand is accelerating at a pace that's frankly hard to even comprehend. All right, so the logical question is, if demand is going through the roof, why don't we just mine more silver? It sounds simple, right?
Well, this is where the story takes a critical turn. The truth is, the silver supply chain is structurally broken. It cannot respond to demand signals the way you'd expect, and understanding this is key to understanding the entire thesis.
And here is the reason why. Somewhere between 70 and 80% of all the silver that comes out of the ground each year isn't from a silver mine. It's a byproduct. It's dug up when miners are actually going after other metals, like copper, lead, or zinc. Silver just happens to be in the same ore.
This analogy here explains the problem perfectly. Let's say you're a baker. Everyone suddenly wants your cookies, and they're willing to pay a premium. The problem is you only make cookies from the leftover dough after you've baked your bread for the day. So no matter how high the price of cookies goes, you can't just decide to make more. The only way to produce more cookies is to sell more bread. That's silver. Miners are in the bread business of copper and zinc. Silver is just the valuable cookie that comes along with it.
And even if we ignored the byproduct issue, even if a company decided today we're going to open a dedicated primary silver mine, well, good luck. From the moment you discover a deposit to the day you produce your first ounce of silver, you are looking at a 10 to 15-year timeline. There is no switch to flip. There is no quick fix to bring more supply online.
And if that wasn't enough, miners are facing a whole host of other headwinds. Ore grades are falling, which means they have to mine and process way more rock just to get the same amount of silver. Supply is also geographically risky, with nearly half of it coming from just 3 countries. The bottom line is that global mine production is essentially flat, with forecasts for next year showing growth of only around 2%, which is nowhere near enough to meet the demand wave we just talked about.
So, let's connect the dots. You have unstoppable, policy-driven demand hitting a brick wall of inflexible, constrained supply. So what happens when you consume more than you produce? It's simple, right? You have to dip into your savings. And that is exactly what the world has been doing with its silver inventories. We're raiding the vault. 820 million ounces. That is the size of the cumulative supply deficit since just 2021. For several years running, we have been using far, far more silver than every mine on the planet combined has been able to produce. This massive gap has to be filled from somewhere, and it's being filled by draining above-ground stockpiles.
I want you to let that sink in for a second. In just the last few years, we have drawn down an amount of silver from inventories that is roughly equal to an entire year of global mining output. Gone. Vanished. Used up by industry. You don't need to be an economist to know that a trend like that is completely and totally unsustainable.
And you can see the results right here. This chart shows the visible registered silver inventories held in the major exchange vaults like the COMEX and LBMA. Back in 2020, we were looking at about 1.5 billion ounces. Today, that number has plunged below 1 billion. It's a drawdown of more than a third in just a few years. The trend line is steep, it is clear, and it is accelerating. Now, this whole situation, this structural deficit, it's already a huge deal, but it's not happening in a vacuum. Right now, as we speak, there are several powerful macroeconomic forces that are converging to create what can only be described as a perfect storm for the silver market. These are catalysts that could take this slow-moving squeeze and accelerate it dramatically.
Let's walk through them. First, that industrial demand we talked about, it's price insensitive, especially in places like China, where their solar build-out is a state priority. They'll pay whatever it takes. Second, governments are finally waking up. The U.S. has now officially designated silver as a critical mineral, which opens the door for strategic stockpiling. Third, we have the potential for interest rate cuts from the Fed. Historically, lower rates are like rocket fuel for precious metals investment demand. Fourth, there's the global de-dollarization trend. Central banks are losing faith in fiat currencies and are steadily buying physical assets like gold, and silver is likely next. And finally, the physical market itself is screaming stress. We are seeing rising lease rates in London. Now, a lease rate is just the interest rate you pay to borrow physical silver. When it goes up, it's a huge red flag that physical metal is becoming very, very scarce.
So when you put all of this together, the conclusion is pretty clear. This isn't just a cyclical bull market or a temporary squeeze. The fundamental equation for silver has been permanently rewritten. It has transformed from being just a precious metal to being a strategic, critical technology metal, and the broader market, it just hasn't woken up to this new reality yet.
Which leaves us with the one final multi-trillion-dollar question. This goes beyond charts and technical analysis. This is about the real-world collision of unstoppable forces. What actually happens when that relentless, price-insensitive industrial demand for the solar panels, the EVs, and the AI of our future finally meets an empty vault? That's the question we all need to be thinking about. That's all the time we have for today on the Bullion Signal Podcast. I hope this analysis has given you a clearer picture of the incredible forces at play in the silver market. If you found this valuable, please do us a favor and hit that subscribe button, leave a review, and share it with someone who needs to hear this message. It helps us get this crucial information out to more people. Stay vigilant, and we'll see you in the next episode. Disclaimer: the content provided in this podcast is for informational and educational purposes only. It is not intended to be and should not be construed as financial, investment, or legal advice. All investment decisions involve risk, and you should conduct your own thorough research and consult with a qualified professional before making any financial decisions. The views and opinions expressed herein are those of the host and do not necessarily reflect the official policy or position of any other agency, organization, employer, or company.